Not too long ago I worked on a Pioneer receiver. I think it was SX525, I believe. I'm not even 100% sure. Anyways, I kept these capacitors here because what I did at the time, the bass tone control was making a thumping sound, which is really irritating, and I ended up just shotgunning, well, just replacing basically all of the capacitors on the tone control board, all of the electrolytic capacitors, because those are the ones actually prone to fail. I just basically shotgunned those because I had everything open and they're really cheap and the job doesn't actually take that long. So in this video I'm going to go ahead and take a look at two of these. There's a total of, as far as I remember that unit, there were 4 1 microfarad 25 volt electrolytic capacitors in there, and this one here I think is the one I've got the test leads hooked up now is the best one of those four. No, the worst one, excuse me, the worst one, and this one, which I have already marked, that is the best one. I just checked these out with my ESR meter here, and that's what it showed me. What I'm going to do now is compare that with my readings on the capacitor meter and my readings with my Heathkit capacitor checker, and see which method would actually show me that the capacitors are bad or are good. So let me go ahead and try out the first one. Of course, you have to go ahead and before we use this thing, we got to just basically short the leads together. Make sure it's discharged, and go ahead and turn this thing on. And this was the bad, the bad capacitor. And this is showing now, right now it's showing 13.4, which according to my unit here is basically way too high. And it should be showing about, it says here, if it's a 10 to 63 microvolt, excuse me, if it's a 10 to 63 volt capacitor, it should be showing 6 ohms and under, and it's actually showing 13.5. So let me go ahead and try the next one here. And it's showing nothing because the leads are shorted. Okay, now 4.2. So according to my unit here, this one is actually good. So let me get the capacitor meter. So here's the capacitor meter, and let me hook up again here. This is now the good capacitor, good electrolytic capacitor. Again, I'm observing polarity, and this is supposed to be 1 microfarad, and right here I'm on the 2 microfarad scale, range scale. So basically it's showing me 1.3 microfarads, and again it's rated at 1 microfarad, and these electrolytics, they actually have a large tolerance. So now here comes the bad one. Again, it was the other one, last one was 1.3, and this one was 1.3 basically. Well, 1.37. So it's actually showing me the same thing as the other one. Now this capacitor meter, now it wouldn't have shown me that this was a bad capacitor. So as my last and final step, I'm going to go ahead and get my Heathkit capacitor checker and then do the comparison test again. So now I've got my Heathkit capacitor checker hooked up, and what I'm going to do is simply check for leakage. That is, I'm going to be applying a DC voltage to the capacitor, Again, this electrolytic capacitor, I got to observe polarity. And as we remember, being a capacitor is supposed to block DC. And this capacitor here is rated at 25 volts, which means that this eye here, I don't know if that can be seen. It's in the, because the contrast right here, it's open now. So I'm going to start out at the low voltage, which is 3 volts, and I'm going to go to 6, 10, 15, and 25. And if this thing closes before I reach 25, that means this capacitor is leaky. Now I'm going to start out with the good, what I assume is a good capacitor. So let me go ahead. I'm on, see there, I am hooked up. And here's what I'm going to be turning here. Just goes 3, again 3, no excuse me, 3, 6, 10, 15, 25, and it goes all the way up to 600, but we're definitely not going to need that today. So let me go ahead and start with 3 volts. In fact, I'm already on that. So 3, now I'm going up to 6 volts, and it's staying, the eye here is staying open as it is, and as soon as it closes there, that means we've got leakage. I'm going up to 10 volts now, and it's okay. 15, so it's already leaking right there. It's leaking somewhere between, since this works in 5 volt increments, it's working between basically 10 and it's leaking between 10 and 15 volts already. So even though this checked out good with my ESR meter and my capacitance meter, that shows it doesn't check out everything. So let me get the bad capacitor, the one that earlier checked out bad with the ESR meter. I'm going to put this on there now. So here is the bad apple of the bunch. This was the one that tested the worst with the ESR meter, and tasted about the same with the capacitance meter as the good one. So I'm going to go ahead, I got to put this to the leakage position, and I've got the volts now on 3 volts, and I'm going to progressively bring it up to 25 volts. That's what this is rated for. And here the eye is open still at 3 volts, so let me go ahead and crank her up. 6 volts, eye still open. 10 volts, eye still open. 15 volts, eye still open. 25 volts, eye closed. So in between 15 and 25 volts, this thing is breaking down. This seems to be working actually better than the one that had actually checked out the best. Let me try that. Let me try that good one again. See what that. I thought it broke down already at 15 volts, or yeah, 15 volts. Let me try that again. I'm not even sure now. So okay, here we go. Got the capacitor meter hooked up, and now we're going to start out with 3 volts again. So 3, 6 still open, 10 still open, 15 closed. So yeah, it's leaking, basically it's already leaking between 10 and 15 volts somewhere. So actually, even though this capacitor had shown itself to be better with the ESR meter, with my capacitor checker here, it actually showed out to be worse. So I guess what I'm trying to say here in this video, I think you have to use a multi-pronged attack, or you just shotgun everything and don't worry about it. So now, as a final test, we're going to be using a brand spanking new capacitor. This is a 10 microfarad. I don't have a 1 microfarad capacitor rated at 25 volts. And start out again at 3 volts. capacitor checker in the leakage position, eye open. And let me go ahead and focus in a little bit better here. You can see now, you can clearly see the eye is open to just this dark area here. So 6 volts, good. 10 volts, good. 15 volts, good. And 25 volts, good. So it's basically doing what it's supposed to.